On mute, man. Don, unmute if you want to talk.
Hey man, how's it going?
Good. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I read the Bible every week. I can read a bit of Hebrew and Aramaic. I'm an Irish nationalist. Zionism is just nationalism for Israelis. They want to have a country. They fought the British, won a country, signed treaties. Bim bam boom. That's it.
Okay. Does that have anything to do with the Bible, or what? What do you think that is? It's a utopian socialist movement. So is that a good thing?
I don't really care. The country is like 5,000 kilometers away from me. They can be socialist or not. I don't care.
Oh, do they have an influence in Ireland's recent decisions about open borders?
The Irish government is insanely anti-Israel for bizarre reasons. It's probably to do with the influence of Qatar in the Irish economy and the media.
Right. Yeah. Qatar, who is pro-Israel and helps and aids Israel, is influencing all the anti-Israeli media. Right.
Qatar is anti-Israel.
No, they're not. They've recently aided Israel, so that's total bullshit.
They
Right,
definitely
this
were
is not a
assisting.
serious. This is a retard. Moving on. What's up, unwanted? That guy doesn't read Hebrew. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jay, I would just ask for. I'm kind of wondering about millennialism, if I pronounce that right.
Uh
Why
huh.
does the Orthodox Church specifically reject that? Or, or if you
Because
guys,
it is I mean, the millennium is not 1,000 years because Christ's kingdom began at the first advent and it's still around. So how could it be 1,000 years? The kingdom is called the church many times in the New Testament. Jesus began his reign when he ascended and sat at the right hand of the Father. Every time the New Testament cites Psalm 110, it talks about that reigning, that kingdom as a present reality at the ascension. So unless you believe that the ascension hasn't happened yet, it's utterly stupid to think that premillennialism is true.
okay, and also you guys, um, you say that there's no future early like kingdom, right? Like, because I've heard a
The
bunch of people.
return of Christ is the renovating of the entire universe. That's the conflagration. So there's a new heavens and a new earth when Christ returns. There's no need for a reinstituted earthly sacrifice or any of this nonsense. All that stuff is interpreted in the book of Hebrews as about the spiritual realities in the church. The feast of Zechariah is not an end times feast in the nation state of Israel. The church is the nation state of Israel in Zechariah.
Okay, thank you so much, Jay Dyer.
Yes. And it doesn't matter if one or two church fathers thought that the about premillennialism doesn't even matter. It's irrelevant. Also, Charles, what's up? Yep.
Hey, jumped me ahead, so I missed what you were saying a second ago. I just wanted to come in and say, I think one of the crucial things that I always find missing in this conversation about Israel and the church and Christ is Matthew 2:15 and how historically it's understood Christ is actually the true Israel. The prophecy that was
Correct.
fulfilled, the prophecy that was fulfilled that I called my son Israel out of Egypt is fulfilled in Christ,
I've
and the
cited it many
church.
times.
Yeah, and the church which straddles both covenants, because the gathered ones in the Old Testament, ecclesia, is in the Greek Septuagint. So the church has always been there. We are Israel insofar as we are united to Christ covenantally by faith and are part of His body. But He is the true Son. You know, the scriptures mention Adam as a son, Israel as a son. They were both typological, pointing forward to the true Son that would come. And all of the promises that pertain to Israel are fulfilled in Christ. And you can actually see this in the
Yep.
Beatitudes. The Beatitudes, Christ is not so focused on like that little strip of land in the Mediterranean anymore. He says the meek shall inherit the earth,
No,
the
Romans
entire
4.
world.
Romans 4 says that the plot of land and the taking of the plot of land is a type of the church taking the entire earth.
Right, exactly, exactly. And again, in the promise in the Beatitudes is blessed are the meek because we inherit what is Christ's. It's Psalm 2. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations and the ends of the earth as your inheritance.
Yeah.
So the
Well,
entire earth is ours because of Christ.
correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. Totally agree. There's a problem, though, I think, in your position, which is that if you look at Numbers 11, and if you look at when Moses lays hands on the 70, this is parallel to what's happening in the book of Acts and in 1st and 2nd Timothy. So just as Israel has a historic lineage and succession, the church has a post-Pentecost empowered lineage and succession. And as a reformed person, you are not a part of that lineage. You have severed yourself from it. So how do you reconcile that with your ahistorical view?
You know what? I reject obviously the presupposition that you're taking. You would have to prove that the succession through the laying of hands up through Middle Ages all the way into the Reformation period
Okay, yeah.
was severed.
Did the
And
church
obviously,
fathers did the church,
obvi-
wait a minute, prove that it was severed? As a reformed person, you don't believe in apostolic succession.
yeah, of course I do.
No, you don't. What are you talking about? There's no reformed person that believes in apostolic succession.
No, yeah, we do. We just define it
No, you
differently.
don't.
But you
Well,
you would be asking me to actually
well,
prove two different
redefining the
things.
words means that it's no longer apostolic succession. You should know that. Why are you being dishonest?
I'm not being dishonest. What I'm saying though
What
is
does
that you're asking.
apostolic succession mean?
I'm actually pulling into my house right now. So let
What
me
does
call
that
back
have to
in
do with anything?
because I'm getting off
Okay.
the phone
Yeah,
really quick.
right. Yeah, so this is what they do. They redefine the terms to mean not what everyone knows it means, to mean some other Reformation distinctive. So it's just lying and deceptive like every other heresy in history. They redefine the words to mean their position. When you can go read the church fathers who believe in an actual historic laying on of hands, you can read the list of the successions of bishops. In fact, even Protestant scholars like the what is it, the 10-volume Schaff Church History series, even that lists the apostolic succession in Rome. So this guy's lying.
Um, hey, what's up, Jay? I was doing a little reading. Would you like to have a discussion on original sin? Um, Specifically, what
Okay.
original guilt and ancestral sin is. I think there seems to be like a misunderstanding with like original guilt. So, do you think? And I'm speculative here, but like, would you say there's a distinction between the Protestant Reformed view of um, personal guilt and the Augustinian view of ontological guilt, meaning that in Adam we're conceived in iniquity, but we're not
I
personally
mean,
guilty?
they're basically the same position. So, I mean, Luther and Calvin defaulted to that Augustinian view that we're all in Adam as in an archetype. So, if you have the essence energy distinction and the distinction between nature, person, and will, and you understand that that's part of anthropology, then it's impossible to believe the Augustinian view of original sin.
Do you think that since we inherit Adam's effects of sin, there's a twofold effect in that we have his stain, the liability to punishment, and because the liability to punishment, the unbaptized cannot receive his
Yeah,
kingdom.
I mean, you're confused over the word stain, maybe because stain connotates ontological reality. How is a deprivation an ontological thing?
Well, I'd say the stain is inheriting his condemnation, even if it's not like an active like. Adam himself was personally condemned for his transgression, but we ourselves are
Uh huh.
not personally guilty for his sin. But we still inherit his condemnation in that we have, without God's grace, we cannot enter his kingdom, right?
Correct, but that doesn't mean that infants are damned. So when you say condemnation, that implies that infants are condemned. Okay, for what?
Well, I'd say that infants themselves, I mean, I think Saint Justin Popovich, like all infants, no matter even if you haven't sinned or not, under, in some sense, the evil one, because baptism, as Christ, gives the story about the wedding with
Yeah, I'm aware of all
angels.
that,
Yeah.
but okay, are infants resurrected?
Well, yeah, every single person's gonna be resurrected. That's
On the basis of what?
Well, it doesn't matter if you've done good or not. You're gonna be judged according to your deeds. But of course, we know infants cannot will
Well,
because
how is an infant right? So how are infants judged on their deeds?
Well, I'd say that I mean there's varying views. I'd say it's a mystery to say whether where an infant goes or not. But if an infant cannot receive the kingdom without baptism, I'd say like where would the infant then go if they're under some sort of condemnation?
Okay. Do we honor the martyrs that were killed by Herod, the infants?
Yeah, the murder of the faithful innocents, yeah. But wouldn't that be different than like because that
Why?
was blood baptism. They were murdered under Herod. Like infants
Okay,
like
so not right. So, but not. So basically, it's not strictly water baptism, right? So
well,
there's
yeah, but like
exceptions.
if like let's say like an unbaptized infant, let's just say they God forbid they decease, but they're not baptized by blood. Would you say I wouldn't? I'm not going to say they suffer eternal torment. That's insane to say. But like, would you then say that in normative means they have the access to heaven?
I did. When did I ever say that? So you're attributing to me a position I never said. I said that there's a difference between resurrection and ever being and theosis. So I never said that an infant necessarily participates in theosis, but we don't know their status. We're simply not told. So
Mm.
you're equivocating on when people say stuff like we are condemned for Adam's sin. That doesn't mean that there's an actual stain on my soul. So when you keep saying like what is the stain? If you said that we have a stain, is that an ontological reality? Because a stain is a thing, right?
Oh, yeah, I'd say the stain is the thing. The stain itself
Is
is
what?
well, I'd say it's the effects of Adam's sin. In that
Okay,
we
so
inherit
so
corruption, we
it's
inherit
not
death,
so
right?
okay, yeah, I agree with that, right? So it's not an ontological reality.
Can you define like in what sense you're using ontological reality? Like, would you say
Does
that?
it have substance?
No.
Being?
Sin itself is not substance. It's just the privation of God. Sin itself. That's all. Sin is.
Exactly. And that's all I've ever said is that infants are have a privation of the divine life. They have a mortal life, but we don't know their state or their eternal destiny because we're not told that. So you can't leap from that to infant damnation.
So would you say that they don't? Of course, they don't suffer pain, but they receive like a pain of loss.
I mean, that's the Roman Catholic position. I don't know that we're told that. Where is that in the Church Fathers? Where is that in the Orthodox view?
I mean, well, if you read the Synod of Carthage, I think isn't that affirmed at
Yeah, are
Ephesus?
you aware that that specific canon is not actually cited when the later ecumenical councils are citing Carthage?
Which ecumenical council?
That's an interpolate. It's an interpolation.
Oh, interesting. So, would
Yeah, you have to actually look at the scholarship on that. There's a book on original sin, the history of Augustinian doctrine of original sin, and in the actual conciliar documents, that part is not there. So when people try to cite this, they're just citing like Latin Roman Catholic versions of the minutes and whatnot of the councils.
okay. Well, I'm all for the infants, like after the Judgment Day, like of them, they could join communion with God. I think Saint Gregory Nyssa had that view, but I mean, there's some other fathers who would say that. I mean, would you throw out what's his name again? I don't know if Saint Ambrose and Milan did, but like, would you say that the Latin view, even if not Augustinian, is different than our view?
How do you? Of course it is. Augustine teaches infant damnation, and he all the way up until Gregory the Great. All the Westerns teach that, and they're wrong. And even the Roman Catholic Church rejects infant damnation. So,
But
I mean, are you aware of the archetype view?
yeah, that we're all in Adam as sinners, and because of him, we're equally guilty.
Right. And so the problem with the archetype view is the mode of willing that it doesn't distinguish nature and person. Guilt is personal. It's not it's not by nature. So you keep equivocating and saying that we're guilty by nature. And when I ask you exactly what it is, you're like, well, it's a deprivation. Well, that's my argument. And deprivation is not guilt. They're different things.
But yeah, but the what proceeds from deprivation is the liability of punishment. Saint John Chrysostom,
The what? Say that again.
the what proceeds from deprivation would be the obligation towards punishment, which is
No, it's not. You're lying. That's not true. They're two different things. That's why an infant is not guilty of sin. He doesn't sin until he commits an actual sin. That's different than the deprivation of grace. So, for example, until he reaches the age of reason, he hasn't sinned.
But no. I'm not. No. I'm not saying they have like the merit or like a personal sin. What I'm saying is that
Well, then what are
because
you talking about? You keep saying condemnation and equivocating and being ambiguous about what it is.
no, 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 no,
Why
no.
are they condemned?
No, all I'm saying is because they have the privation, they cannot receive God in normative means. That's what I mean, and that's the punishment. The punishment is we cannot be reconciled to God without His grace, and that's what infants receive, right? But infants themselves aren't going to go to Gehenna or anything like that. What I'm saying is that I mean, even in the when we pray for the unbaptized infants, they don't receive. It says they don't receive heaven or Gehenna. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're just simply not told, though. So you keep sort of trying to. I don't understand what you're trying to get at or what your argument is. Like, what are you trying to get me to admit?
I'm not trying to get you to admit anything. I'm
Yeah,
literally
you are. You're reading all these Latin retards, and you're interested in the Latin original sin view, and it's like it's a retarded view. So I don't understand what you're trying to prove.
no. I'm happy to be corrected. I'm not trying to state a position. I'm genuinely just curious on like what the
Well, how?
distinction
If
would
you
be.
wait a minute, if you're not stating a position, then how are you happy to be corrected? You have to have a position to be corrected.
Well, no, I'm actually I'm just curious. Like, if infants don't receive, the kingdom, it's just simply a mystery. Is that all we would leave it at?
Yeah, that's what I've always said. But you're not told for sure that they don't either, because you don't know that there are extra normative means by which God might unite them to Himself. I mean, if He went to the trouble to preach the gospel to all the dead, then there might be means by which He can reach those people that we're just not told about.
Okay. But so, is there any like view besides mystery that like the infants themselves, like after the judgment, will they receive heaven? Will they be in a neutral state, or like what would be their state?
I mean, bro, by definition, if it's left to mystery, why are you asking me the question to solve the mystery?
Because I mean, there's like a lot of views on it, though, isn't? Would you agree?
Well, then that means that it's mysterious, isn't it? It's not clear.
Hmm. Okay, I think I'll do some more reading.
Can you help? I don't understand exactly even what you're arguing. Like, just are infants necessarily? Did you hear me say that they're not participating in theosis?
Yeah. I agree with that. Like, but like,
Okay.
even like someone like, I think someone told me the Serbian king before. Like, you can pray. Like, Saint Margaretus agrees. Saint Ignatius, you can pray for those out of Hades, and they can receive, um, a lesser reward. I think that's what a baptized Orthodox Christian told me. Right. So we pray for those who are in Hades, and then they can be lifted up. Is that correct?
Again, we don't. I don't know what you mean by lifted up. You mean saved out of Hades or
Yeah.
given?
The
I don't know. We're
prayers of the
not told.
faithful.
I mean, look, man. There's just a lot of mystery about infants in the next life that we're just simply not told, and I don't know what to say. Like you want me to commit to something beyond that, and I don't know what to say.
Hmm. Okay. So you wouldn't. Okay, so they don't suffer lesser punishments. Just okay. I'll just leave it a mystery. Okay, I just want to get your view.
Well, where do you see this other than the Augustinian all the way up to Gregory the Great view?
Well, I mean, even in let's see, the Russian fathers like Saint Philaret, what's it called? The other fathers like Saint Justin Popovich, Saint Peter Mogia, they speculated on it too. I mean, didn't they write like systematic theology that we use, like the longer Catechism of the Eastern Orthodox Church that discusses
Yeah,
it?
but none of those things say that infants are damned.
Didn't Peter Mogia hold the view though of Saint Augustine?
I mean, I don't. I mean, it depends on how you're reading these texts. So when you see the word like "we're all condemned in Adam" and you assume that that means damnation, then it would prove the Augustinian view. But condemnation can refer also to the effects of Adam's sin, the same way that Paul talks about it in Romans 7 and 8. That's what extends from Adam. For example, Paul says the flesh, right?
Hmm.
The law of the flesh. Okay, well, the law of the flesh doesn't mean that the flesh is evil. It doesn't mean that the passions are evil. It means that it's a term that's used to encapsulate everything that we inherit from Adam, like saying, quote, condemnation.
Oh, okay. But would you say that, like, I mean, Saint Augustine? I think I have a quote from him. He says that the infants themselves. I mean, he had varying views, but like he said, like the infants themselves are not evil, but nor will they receive the reward, because like not everyone who lacks
He
God's grace.
he believes in infant damnation, man. It's not even in question. He's the guy. You know what the mass damnata is?
No, what is it?
You're not familiar with that?
The Mass Damnata?
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
I haven't read it extensively.
Okay.
Well,
We're done. So this is what happens when you spend all your time trying to do all this Latin stuff, and then you fall into this. You don't even know the basics of the Augustinian view, but you want to debate it. So if you don't know what the mass damnata is, then you shouldn't be debating it.